They stole my childhood, my place in the family, and even my name. But what they didn't know was that my grandfather left me the one thing powerful enough to destroy them all. It was a warm September afternoon in Dallas when I pulled up in front of the old farmhouse. The wind chimes on the porch clinked faintly, a sound that once meant safety and summer afternoons filled with laughter. Now it felt hollow. I hadn't been here in over a year. Not because I didn't want to, but because I had been told there was no one left to visit. When the front door creaked open, I wasn't greeted with a hug. Instead, a voice as sharp as broken glass cut through the silence. "So you finally decided to show up," my grandmother Margaret said, her arms crossed, her eyes piercing. Her words stung more than I expected. "Grandma, what's going on?" I asked. "They told me you were in a nursing home. That you and Grandpa..." She cut me off, raising a trembling hand. "Your grandfather called your name, Clara, over and over on his deathbed. He asked for you, but you never answered. You never visited." My breath caught in my throat. "That's not true," I whispered. "Please, show me the number he was calling." Margaret hesitated, then disappeared inside. When she returned, she carried a small notepad with frayed corners. She handed it to me. I recognized my grandfather's handwriting instantly, but the number on the page wasn't mine, not even close. This isn't my number," I said, my voice shaking. "I've had the same one since high school." Her brows furrowed. "They told us you changed it when you went to college," she said softly. "They told us you didn't want to be bothered. That you were ashamed of us." I stumbled back, gripping the porch railing for balance. "No, that's a lie. I came home last spring break. Rachel." I swallowed hard, Mamie, my sister. "She told me no one was home. But I saw her standing right here." Grandma's face went pale. "We were here, Clara. We've always been here." "What are you saying?" The truth hit me like a storm. "They lied to me," I said through gritted teeth. "Mom, Dad, Rachel. They lied. They told me you and Grandpa had been moved to a care facility out in Cedar Ridge. They said visitors weren't allowed because of quarantine. They kept me away, and now I've lost him." Grandma's lips trembled. "They told us you didn't want to see us," she whispered. "They said you had a new life, that we didn't belong in it." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "No, they cut me off from you on purpose. They didn't even tell me Grandpa was sick, and today..." My voice broke. "They told me the funeral was at 1 p.m. I went to the church and it was empty." Grandma sank onto the porch swing, her knees shaking. "The funeral was at 9 a.m., she whispered, realization spreading across her face. "They told everyone you didn't show. That you didn't care." Tears blurred my vision. I would never miss his funeral. Never. He was the only one who believed in me. For the first time since I arrived, my grandmother reached out, her hand trembling as it touched mine. "We know the truth now, Clara," she said softly. "We know." But I could see something else behind her grief. Something sharper, resolve. She stood and walked back. Inside the house, her steps steady. When she returned, her voice carried a new fire. "I'm calling them here," she said. "Your parents, Rachel, and the lawyer." It's time they all heard the truth. An hour later, the doorbell rang. "Stay in the kitchen until I call you," Grandma Margaret whispered, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. I sat at the same small table where Grandpa used to drink his morning coffee. My heart pounded as voices filled the living room. My mother's voice was sharp, but sugar-coated. "Margaret, what's this about? You sounded urgent." My father spoke next, calm and calculated as always. "We don't have much time, so let's get this over with." And then I heard my sister, Rachel. A bored sigh, like she couldn't believe she'd been dragged here. Silence followed. Then Grandma's voice cut through, steady, commanding. "Please, everyone take a seat. The lawyer will be here any moment." My pulse quickened. Then came the sound of the front door opening again. The lawyer's measured footsteps echoed across the hardwood floor. "Good afternoon." "I'm Mr. Harris," attorney for the late George Dawson, he said, his voice formal and unshaken. We're here to read his will, that was my cue. Grandma opened the kitchen door and motioned for me to step out. The moment I entered the room, every head snapped toward me, my mother's fake smile faltered. My father's face went pale, and Rachel's lips parted, but no words came. You, Rachel finally choked out. What are you doing here? Grandma answered coldly before I could. She has every right to be here. More right than any of you. Mr. Harris opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope. His eyes swept across the tense room. Shall we begin? He asked. The will unfolded slowly, each line heavier than the last. To my beloved wife, Margaret Dawson, I leave our family home and full financial provisions for her care and comfort. Grandma didn't flinch, she already knew. To my granddaughter, Clara Dawson. Mr. Harris paused, his tone steady but firm. I leave the newly constructed research facility at 482 Pine Ridge Lane, including all laboratory equipment, intellectual property rights, and the funds required for continued development and staffing. The room cracked like glass under pressure. My father stiffened, my mother's eye twitched. But it was Rachel who broke first. You've got to be kidding me, she snapped, her voice shaking with rage. The lab, the whole facility, he gave that to her? Mr. Harris ignored her and continued. The remainder of my estate, accounts, assets, and investments, shall be divided equally between my two granddaughters, Clara and Rachel Dawson. Rachel shot up from her chair so fast it screeched against the wooden floor. This is insane, she yelled, pointing at me. She wasn't even here. She disappeared for years, and suddenly she walks back in and gets half of everything. The air in the room grew heavy. My hands clenched, my chest tight, but before I could speak, Grandma's voice cut through again, colder than I'd ever heard it. There's more, she said, pulling a folded letter from the drawer beside her. Her hand trembled as she passed it to Mr. Harris. George wanted this read aloud. In front of all of you. Mr. Harris carefully unfolded the yellowed paper, and as his voice carried across the room, the silence was suffocating. To my dearest Clara, he began. Mr. Harris's voice softened as he began to read the letter. To my dearest Clara, if you are hearing this, it means I have left this world. I regret deeply that you were not by my side in my final moments, though I know it was not by choice. You were always the light of my life, the one who reminded me of hope when others only saw greed. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. You were always my greatest joy. My chest tightened, my eyes stung. I had imagined Grandpa's voice 1,000 times since his passing, but hearing his words now, written just for me, shattered the walls I had built. Mr. Harris continued. Clara, I trusted you because you never sought wealth or power from me. I built the research facility in your name because I believe in your heart, your mind, and your vision for the future. You will carry on the work I began, and I know you will do it with kindness and courage. As for those who try to keep us apart, the truth will always reveal itself. Greed never wins, not in the end. The room was silent except for the sound of my quiet breathing. Rachel's face turned crimson. This is manipulation. He must have been sick when he wrote that letter. No, I said, finally finding my voice. My hands trembled, but my words were steady. He was clear-headed. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he saw you, all of you, for what you are. My father slammed his hand on the armrest. Watch your tongue, Clara. Don't forget who raised you. I met his eyes, cold and unflinching. Raised me? Or used me when it suited you, then cut me off when Grandpa needed me most. Grandma Margaret leaned forward, her gaze sharp as a blade. She's right. I begged you to tell her the truth, but you didn't. You hid the letters. You blocked her calls. You wanted to erase her. Rachel's voice cracked. That's not true. But Mr. Harris interrupted, his tone calm but deliberate. Actually, it is. Mr. Dawson suspected interference. These are copies of letters he wrote to Clara that were returned unopened. He asked me to keep them until after his passing. He pulled a small stack of envelopes from his briefcase and laid them on the table. Each one bore my name, written in Grandpa's unmistakable handwriting. My hands shook as I reached for them. Years of stolen words. Stolen love. Stolen goodbyes. Rachel lunged forward, but Grandma's hand shot out like lightning. "Don't you dare," she hissed. Rachel froze, her face twisted with fury. For the first time, I wasn't the quiet, forgotten granddaughter. I was the heir of truth. And my family, the ones who thought they had buried me in silence, were now standing on crumbling ground. I looked at each of them, my voice low but steady. "This isn't the end. It's only the beginning." The room crackled with silence. The weight of Grandpa's letter hung like a storm cloud over everyone. Rachel sat stiff in her chair, fists clenched, jaw trembling. My mother avoided my eyes, her lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. My father looked at Mr. Harris with barely concealed rage, as if a single glare could undo the will. But I, for the first time in years, felt a strange calm settle over me. The power balance had shifted. And they knew it. Mr. Harris closed the folder with a quiet snap. "That concludes the official reading. Unless there are objections." "There are objections," my father cut in sharply. "We'll challenge this." George wasn't in his right mind. He was weak. He was careful. Grandma Margaret's voice was like steel. "Insulting your father's memory in front of his lawyer won't help your case." Mr. Harris raised a brow. "For the record, Mr. Dawson was declared fully competent by 2 independent doctors when this will was signed. Any legal challenge will be unsuccessful." My father's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Rachel finally snapped. She shoved her chair back and pointed at me. "You think you've won? You think just because Grandpa wrote your name on some papers, you suddenly belong here? You'll fail, Clara. That lab will crumble in your hands. And when it does, you'll come crawling back to us." I met her glare with a calm smile. "No, Rachel. I won't crawl back. I'll build something you could never imagine. And you'll have to watch from the outside." Her face twisted with hatred. That night, I walked through the silent halls of the research facility for the first time. The building was modern, sleek, filled with rows of polished equipment. But more than that, it was filled with Grandpa's vision. His fingerprints were everywhere, in every blueprint, every project note, every unfinished experiment. I placed my hand on the cold metal railing of the upper floor and whispered, "I won't let them destroy this. I won't let them destroy you." The next morning I began setting things in motion. I met with the board Grandpa had left behind. I pored over his notes, his research, his goals. The more I read, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a facility. It was a legacy, a future. And it was mine now. But revenge simmered in the back of my mind. I hired the best auditors to go through every corner of Grandpa's finances. Within weeks, discrepancies began to surface. Quiet withdrawals, hidden accounts. My father's signature on documents that screamed of fraud. It was all there, buried under years of careful manipulation. I didn't rush. I let the evidence pile up, brick by brick, until the wall was too high for them to climb. Then I made move. One morning, Rachel arrived at the facility uninvited, dressed in her usual designer arrogance. "This place is mine too," she snapped at the receptionist. But instead of me, she found a team of lawyers waiting. "You might want to sit down," my lead attorney said coolly, handing her a thick envelope. Inside were the findings: embezzlement, misuse of company funds, false signatures. All traced back to Rachel and my father. Her face drained of color. "This is a lie," she screamed, slamming the papers on the desk. But the lawyers didn't flinch. "We'll see what the court thinks." Rachel staggered back, speechless, her world collapsing around her, and I stood in the doorway, calm and unshaken. "This is just the start," I said quietly. You wanted me erased, but now? You'll be the ones erased. The court day came faster than anyone expected. The evidence I had gathered, months of financial records, contracts, and forged signatures, painted a damning picture. My father's company had been siphoning money from Grandpa's estate for years, and Rachel had signed off on more than one transaction. When the judge entered, the tension was thick enough to choke on. My mother sat stiff in the gallery, refusing to meet my eyes. Rachel fidgeted beside my father, her arrogance cracked into nervous glances. My father himself sat stone-faced, as if daring the world to accuse him. But there was no hiding from the truth. Mr. Harris presented the documents, each one like a nail in their coffin. Your Honor, this was not negligence. This was calculated theft. And if Mr. Dawson had not acted when he did, his legacy and his granddaughter's rightful inheritance would have been wiped away. Rachel snapped, her voice shrill in the silent courtroom. This isn't fair. Clara doesn't deserve any of this. She abandoned us. I stood, my voice calm but razor-sharp. No, Rachel. You abandoned me. You all did. You stole my letters, you kept me from Grandpa's side, and now you dare accuse me of abandonment? That's your guilt speaking, not mine. The judge rapped his gavel sharply. Enough. The evidence is clear. This court rules in favor of Clara Dawson. The estate remains as written, and charges of fraud will proceed against Mr. and Miss Dawson. Rachel gasped. My father's face finally broke, not into rage, but into something worse. Defeat. I walked out of that courtroom with Grandma Margaret by my side. She squeezed my hand, her voice low. He'd be proud of you. For the first time in years, I felt the truth of it. Weeks later, I stood in the center of the research facility. Workers moved through the halls, new projects coming to life. Grandpa's dream wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Rachel and my father had vanished from the public eye, their reputations shattered. My mother retreated into silence, unwilling to face the fallout. But me, I was stronger. I walked into the main lab, sunlight spilling across the polished floors. I paused in front of Grandpa's old desk, where a framed photo of us now stood. Me as a child, his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling like the world couldn't touch us. I touched the frame gently. They tried to erase me, Grandpa, I whispered. But I'm still here. And I won. The hum of the machines filled the air, like a heartbeat. A new beginning. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just the forgotten granddaughter. I was the legacy. Family can betray you, but truth never does. If you want more stories of betrayal, revenge, and justice served, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place.